This is Geek Gab with your hosts, John, Brian, and me, Jasyn. We are back. That's right, Geek Gab, episode 48, Saturday, April 2nd, 2016. I'm just glad we're not doing this show on April 1st. Can you imagine all the garbage we'd have to deal with?
Oh, man. The internet is completely, thoroughly unusable on April 1st.
I avoided most of the internet most of the day yesterday. The only one article I saw, I didn't even know if it was true because even though it was reported in two separate major newspapers, I knew both major newspapers had printed crap before, like blatantly, falsely untrue garbage, and so I didn't know about it. It was about Gmail supposedly adding an April Fool's feature called Mic Drop. Did you hear about that?
I did. Supposedly they had this thing where they had this cute little animation of like the minions from that movie, Minions, like dropping the mic. And if you had a button where you could send your email or you could send with a mic drop, right?
And if you sent with a mic drop, it muted every reply to that email chain so you would never see it.
Which, not only does that sound stupid, but at least they put it on a separate button, right? But no! They screwed that up, didn't they?
So supposedly somebody actually hit mic drop and they were sending a job response, and somebody else supposedly sent one in response to somebody's daughter dying. They're like, oh, that sounds so terrible. Of course we'll go to the funeral. Mic drop.
And the problem was that it was a bug in Gmail. It would do the mic drop even when you hit just regular send.
So I still don't know if that was actually a true story, though. Was that really true?
I don't know. Honestly, I didn't see it. I didn't use Gmail yesterday, so.
Well, I don't ever use like the web-based Gmail. I have my credentials plugged into my email program, so I just, I use a regular email program. I don't know. I'm wondering if Brian either doesn't really have an opinion about this or if he's having more audio problems.
No, I have no opinion.
Have no opinion. Okay.
First I've heard of it, I don't really understand it, so I'm just gonna let my betters hash this out.
Okay.
Excuse me.
It's just one of those things where years and years ago, something, maybe Google or someone did something funny on their webpage for an April Fool's prank, and it was only funny that first time, and it was barely funny that first time. Now every company with internet presence has to do some bullshit, and it's tiring.
I did see one thing that I thought was hilarious, though. I don't know who made it. It was a toilet paper company, and they were introducing a new brand of hipster toilet paper. Toilet paper oriented towards the hipster demographic, and the big selling point of it is that unlike all the other toilet paper in the world, this toilet paper was only barely processed, so you weren't putting as much chemicals into the environment. You were saving the environment by buying what was essentially thin sheets of raw wood pulp.
Hipster TP, love it.
And you could actually see, like, they called it virgin toilet paper. You could actually see in the mock-ups they did that it was this thick, cardboard, raspy kind of stuff that could legitimately cause you actual bleeding if you used this product. And you're thinking, wow, that is so hipster.
Wow.
Wait, it's not supposed to bleed.
I thought they'd use pages of like Allen Ginsberg novels or something. I don't know. Really miss Burroughs. Not because they don't like him, but because they do. It's ironic.
The other one I saw, the other headline I saw, and this is a great segue here. Watch this segue, folks. You have to be a real professional, an unpaid professional, produce a segue this awesome. I saw one story yesterday that said Zack Snyder admits that Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice was actually an April Fool's joke that was released early, and they're releasing the real movie in a couple of weeks.
Oh, I would love it if that were true. Although he would have called it Batman v Superman, because that's how Zack Snyder refers to it. That's edgy, apparently.
And it really resonated with me, this April Fool's story, because I actually saw Batman v Superman for the very first time on April Fool's.
Wow.
It was like a trick on yourself.
Yes. It was an April Fool's joke I played on myself, so it was nice having that brief moment of wondering if Zach was actually apologizing to me.
Wow, that's nice, because they say that you can't tickle yourself, right? And absent an episode of transient global amnesia, you probably can't play a practical joke on yourself, but he said, "You found a way, sir. Congratulations."
So, Brian has seen the movie as well.
No, I haven't.
You haven't seen the movie?
No.
Wait, we decided 2 whole weeks ago this was going to be our next topic. And I'm the only person who went and saw the movie?
It's not my fault.
Couldn't make myself do it. This is my fault. I just couldn't make myself do it. You have to understand how much I disliked Man of Steel, which wasn't even that bad of a movie. Wow.
So I'm the only person here who has an actual informed opinion.
Well, I was gonna wait and listen to your opinion to see what you said about it. Maybe you could convince me to see it.
Well, and I've watched and read reviews of it, so don't worry about spoilers for me or anything. And I have an opinion informed by the opinions of others I trust.
By the way, folks, if you haven't seen the movie, there will actually be spoilers. I'm going to talk about spoilers in the show here, so just forewarned, if you haven't seen it yet, there will be spoilers. The day before I saw it, March 31st, I clocked 4 actual major spoilers in the headlines of stories on geek news sites. So I figure at this point that what the normal period of spoiler of blocking out spoilers is gone. They have declared it over. There is now a complete total spoiler allowance. So if you're not going to be spoiled it from me, you will have already been spoiled by reading the headlines on other news sites. So just that's your fault. You should have gone and seen it already. Apparently the statute of limitations on spoilers for major news or for major cultural events like The Force Awakens and Batman v Supes is now approximately 1 week. So you have 1 week from release date, maybe a week and a half, before people start spoiling it for you. So on a major release movie like this, just be forewarned, the internet no longer gives a damn what you think. That's kind of depressing, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to be with the times, right?
Okay.
It's the current year, man.
It's current year, and they don't call it they don't call it popular culture for nothing. You don't want to be behind the curve, do you?
It's amazing how unpopular this popular culture is, though, isn't it?
You hit a niche, and when the niche has so much disposable income that they buy stupid things, then you can make it look big. Like, for example, comic books. You guys know that comic books are awful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotten worse and worse and worse. Okay, so my entire opinion, and we're going to jump right to the conclusion. Actually, let me do a little bit of setup. The movie is called Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. And it features, as its 2 central characters, Batman and Superman.
A novel.
And they fight. So, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is about Batman and Superman fighting. Is everybody with me? Do I need to go back over that one more time? Because I can't.
Well, you see, I'm glad that you did that because I wasn't sure what was going to be what the movie was going to be about. So that's probably the reason I didn't see it.
Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice is not a bad movie. There are a few small problems that are nevertheless annoying through a large part of the movie, and there is at least one major problem. See, I'm the exact opposite of Brian. I haven't watched any reviews of it at all. All I have in my head is my opinion based on what I saw. And so this is my opinion, uninformed by anybody else's. The reason why the movie sticks in your craw is because of one very big, very deeply buried problem that I think a lot of people probably haven't exactly encapsulated right. Because I've never seen any of the people complaining about it say anything. Some of the people complaining about it have said a lot of things like, oh, Batman kills people. Well, Batman killed people in the 1989 Batman movie. I mean, he literally flew at Jack Nicholson shooting miniguns, right? Modern Gatling guns and missiles at him. He kicked somebody off the top of the cathedral, and they fell approximately 100,000 stories to their death. Batman began his career as a pulp avenger like the Shadow and carried a gun. It wasn't until the 1950s when the Comics Code came around that Batman stopped shooting people. So that isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a little bit jarring, but it isn't necessarily a bad thing. And that's not what the deep problem with the movie is. The deep problem with this movie is that it's a direct sequel to Man of Steel. And the deep problem with Man of Steel, the deep problem is that it's a direct sequel to Man of Steel. Man of Steel's problem that informs this movie is that it's not a superhero movie. Man of Steel starred Superman, but it wasn't a superhero movie. And again, people will say the exact same thing. Well, the big problem with Man of Steel is that Superman killed somebody. And I'm going to point out that the problem with Man of Steel is not that Superman killed somebody. In context of what's going on in Man of Steel, Superman had to kill somebody. The problem with Man of Steel is that it wasn't a superhero movie, it was a war movie. Specifically, an alien invasion movie, something like Battlefield Los Angeles, something like The War of the Worlds. Pick your favorite Earth gets invaded by aliens, like the TV series, like Fallen Skies. Aliens come to Earth and they start to murder us, so a plucky band of guerrillas, common citizens in most cases, fights back against the aliens. That's what an alien invasion movie is, and Man of Steel was an alien invasion movie. It was a war movie about brutal aliens brutally murdering Earthlings. And in a war movie, you kill the bad guys. Cast your mind back to the first Captain America movie. Captain America, the first Avenger, what did he do? He killed people because he was on the front lines of World War II. It was a war movie. There wasn't anything wrong with that. But the Superman movie, to launch the DC cinematic universe, should not have been an alien invasion movie. And it was too dark, it was too grim, it was ugly, and it was depressing. Now, all of those things are acceptable in something like Battlefield Los Angeles, which I love. I love that movie. But in a movie like with Superman, that's just too dark, it's just too heavy, it's just too oppressive, it's just too depressing. This movie, Batman versus Superman, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, begins, and you've seen it if you've seen any of the trailers, it begins in that battle where General Zod and Superman are destroying so much of Metropolis, and as a result, this huge building owned by Wayne Enterprises, Bruce Wayne's company, Bruce Wayne being the Batman, for those of you that don't know, is crushed and falls to the ground, collapses, and many people inside it are killed. One girl is explicitly shown, Bruce Wayne saving this girl from the collapsing building, and she says, "My mom is gone, my mom is gone." He says, "Don't worry, everything will be okay. Where's your mom at?" And she points to a building, and he looks up, and the entire top half of it is gone, and it's on fire. He grabs a guy and has to lift an I-beam off his legs, and the man is pulled out from underneath the rubble. You see later in the movie that this man has lost the lower half of both of his legs from the mid-thigh down. This is a direct consequence of what happened in Man of Steel, and they, in order to have strong continuity, they had to do it. But that's the problem. This is the beginning of a Batman and Superman movie, and it's completely wrong. It's completely tonally wrong. And you couldn't make these events nice and happy and super heroic, because they are depressing events. They are dark events. And so it's appropriate in terms of continuity. It's appropriate in terms of treating the situation seriously, that is taking this massive loss of life seriously as if it had been a real event, but it's completely wrong for the movie. And this problem with tone, with the events being too serious, too grim, too brutal, follows through the entire rest of the movie. And that is the deep problem that afflicts the entire movie. I'm going to stop and take a drink and let Brian respond, or, you know, John, whoever.
You want to do this?
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that the darkness and the darkness and the violence continued.
The darkness, the silence. Yeah. That's I don't know what Jasyn just said echoed a lot of the reviews I heard. One point that I will bring up, and I'm going to bring it up in the form of a question since I hadn't seen the movie when Jasyn gets back, is, okay, with Batman killing, yes, he's right. As soon as I heard the complaint that, well, Batman kills people in this, I thought, he did in Tim Burton's too, man. I mean, he was gunning people down with machine guns and stuff, so that's not fair on its own. But isn't the source of the conflict between the two main characters that Bruce Wayne resents Superman for using excessive violence and killing, and then doesn't his own disregard for human life make him a hypocrite?
Oh, that's an interesting point, yeah.
Just saying. And I don't know, because I didn't watch it, but it seems like a pretty poignant issue there, if true.
So, let's talk about some good things about the movie, first off. People say Zack Snyder is a bad director. I disagree. I think Zack Snyder, this movie proves that Zack Snyder is an amazing director, because just about every frame of the movie is unbelievably gorgeously shot, framed. It is one of the most beautiful movies I've seen in a long time. And it's not in a beautiful in a way that it's meant to draw attention to it. It's just, if you stop and look at how he frames things, how things are moving in front of the cameras, even in moments where he's not doing the slow motion thing, which he does do at the beginning, but not a lot through the rest of the movie. It is a gorgeously shot movie, and Zack Snyder knows how to put together a scene. He knows how to put together a shot. And he has complete control over his craft as a director. I think as a I don't want to say as a director, though. I almost want to say as a master cinematographer. That is, as the guy who tells the cinematographer what to shoot. He does a brilliant, amazing job. The problem with Zack Snyder in a lot of his movies is, and always has been, that he's not a very good storyteller. There are a couple of times in the movie where major things happen for absolutely no good reason, just to set up what the people making the movie wanted to have happen. Like, at this one moment, there is an absolutely critical piece of equipment which has gotten lost. And Lois Lane is the only person who knows where it is. Superman doesn't tell her to go get it. Batman doesn't tell her to go get it. She just intuits, for no good reason, of the of the four people present in the scene, she alone has no idea why they need this specific piece of equipment, but she runs off to get it anyway. And that was a minor story problem that nonetheless stuck out. But all of the major storytelling problems follow that exact same pattern, and 2 or 3 times near the end of the movie, they just had to go do things because the scripts they did, there's no good character motivation for doing it. And it is really, really jarring. The closer they got to the fight between Batman and Superman, that's really when the movie went off the rails for me. I thought the first half of the movie or so was actually a great movie. I was enjoying it a lot. Tonal problems aside, setting aside the grimness of it, it's a great movie. But about halfway through, it starts to veer off the rails because the increasing demands of what they want to have happen are piling up that don't quite make sense, and the deviations from character motivation get bigger and bigger from there until you're just like, no, stop! You almost had a great movie.
I think you can say that about a lot of Zack Snyder movies, and you know what? I'm going to agree with you. He's got talent. He's got skill, especially with cinematography. I mean, all of his movies are beautifully photographed. He pioneered techniques that are now, industry standard, much as the Wachowski brothers did. But he has this tendency to self-indulgence, and the money guys, the producers, don't seem to be able to rein him in on some stuff they really should. This is one case where I'm going to go to bat for the studio suits and say, yeah, they might need to exert a little more control over the creatives. I don't know. What do you think?
I keep on wondering how much of what went into the movie was Zack Snyder, how much of what went into the movie was people demanding that Zack Snyder put stuff in there, whether it made sense or not.
Well, I'm looking at the IMDb trivia here, and this might provide a clue. It says, a rough cut of the film was shown for the executives at Warner Brothers. They were reportedly so impressed that they not only gave the film a standing ovation, but also began negotiating a deal with Ben Affleck to have him make 3 solo Batman movies, rather than the original plan to make only 1. So it sounds like, if this is to be believed, that the brass at WB weren't fully aware of what was going on set, and only found out at the rough cut. So it sounds like mostly Snyder and the screenwriters.
Stupid decisions they made. Metropolis and Gotham City are now basically 2 boroughs of the same city. They're right across the bay from each other.
What? So why is Batman even necessary then? Can't Superman fight all the crime and, can he not cross the river like a vampire or something?
Yeah, it is literally, they show shots from one city to the other. They're on opposite sides of what they call Gotham Bay. You can see Gotham from the shoreline in Metropolis and vice versa, and Lois Lane takes a helicopter from the Daily Planet to Gotham City, just flies over.
Yeah, they're getting their DC geography mixed up, man, because, Gotham is supposed to be in New Jersey. Like, if you follow the clues, if you look at even Batman the Animated Series, whenever they show license plates and driver's licenses, they're clearly modeled after Jersey. But then Metropolis is supposed to be way farther north. Like, it's even modeled on Toronto, Canada, I believe.
Let's see. Other weird choices. Luthor was entirely wrong. And don't get me wrong, Jesse Eisenberg actually did an excellent job with the material he was given and with the direction he was given. I just think that was the absolute wrong Luthor to go with, was the whiny
you know what?
Facebook Zuckerberg Luthor.
You know what? You're totally right. And here's how that happened. Originally, Zack Snyder was in talks with Bryan Cranston to play Luthor. Okay? And he wanted
brilliant.
Yes, and he wanted Eisenberg to play Jimmy Olsen. Okay? Well then, when Eisenberg came in for his Jimmy Olsen screen test, Snyder just had one of those, he got a wild hair up his ass, had this flight of fancy. He's like, wait, I know. We will recast him as Lex Luthor, right? We'll make Eisenberg Lex Luthor, and then do something unconscionable with Jimmy Olsen that I won't spoil here, but you know what I'm talking about. And then just fire Bryan Cranston. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
I would have seen it if Bryan Cranston were Lex Luthor.
Me too. I know. What was he thinking?
It is insane. Okay, look, as a creative person, I've had ideas like that strike me. And what you have to do is you kind of just have to sit on an idea until it becomes apparent whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. And in extremis, you get the feedback of people around you. If they all say, no, that's a bad idea, you don't run with it. You don't run with every idea just because it seems brilliant at the time it happens. Every idea seems brilliant when it strikes you. That doesn't mean it is.
Yeah, I mean, what I don't get is, how did Zack Snyder, of all people, become one of these guys that no one challenges anymore? Right? I mean, I can understand it with George Lucas or Ridley Scott, but it's not like Zack Snyder has produced something just enduring and untouchable like that. I mean, with his track record, again, you'd think he would have fewer yes men around who tell him, no, dude, don't fire Bryan Cranston. That's retarded. No.
Other good things about the movie. Gal Gadot is unutterably gorgeous. Of course, she's a supermodel. She's acted before. She was in a couple of the Fast and Furious movies. And did a great job. Again, she did a great job acting through the material she was given. She did not turn in a bad performance. She turned in a good performance. She lacks the physicality needed to portray Wonder Woman. What spoiled, in addition to the grim tone, what spoiled Man of Steel was that they had too many themes going on at the same time. There was the alien, people will never accept you theme. There was the Jesus come to save the human race theme, and there was other major themes of Superman in there, and it kind of became a muddled mess. Too many things in there. This movie suffered from the same problem. There are too many things going on. One of the main villains that shows up at the very end of the movie is called Doomsday. And it's direct from the comic. If you've read the comic, you know what Doomsday is and where it appeared and why. Doomsday should never have been in this movie. That was one thing too many. You could have made the movie work without Doomsday, and it would have worked much, much better. The only thing that Doomsday being there did was give Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman a reason for them to gang up together, to unite together to fight something, but it just was too much. Too much added onto a movie that already had a ton of stuff in it already.
So, saving Doomsday for the full-on Justice League movie as a catalyst for the team to unite.
That might have worked. Or even a sequel with just Superman and Luthor. Any one of those things. I mean, at the end of the movie, they are aware there are other metahumans. They've introduced the concept of the Flash, Cyborg, Aquaman, and to be in this world, so those three can join up with Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. If Doomsday had happened and emerged, and that was the end of the movie, and then you would follow that on with the Justice League movie, or if the process of creating Doomsday had begun and you were aware that something bad was going to happen, and then it happens at the beginning of the Justice League movie, like you suggested to bring them all together, that would have been great. As it was, he was added onto a movie where he didn't belong and was just too much. Odd things. The decision of Clark Kent to become totally obsessed with the Batman and to completely ignore his job at the Daily Planet was weird and bad. I mean, and this is a thing where the tone actually played against Clark's decision. Clark gets offended because Batman captures a sex trafficker and then brands him with the bat symbol. Well, that branding a criminal with the bat symbol might fly if we hadn't just gone into a building where a dozen young women were chained up in the basement to be used as sex slaves. Once you introduce the concept of a man who sells rape into a superhero movie, it's pretty hard to see why Clark Kent is more offended by Batman beating up this sex trafficker than he is by the fact that there is sex trafficking going on across the bay. A 1 second flight time across the bay. It's an odd choice. It does, other than setting, it's there. It's just one of those, it's in the script moments that sets up the conflict between Batman and Superman. But if he had been something else, like a bank robber, you could kind of see where Clark would be upset. But as it is, a sex trafficker, you're kind of thinking, well, you know, Batman's a little bit, that's a little much, but I kind of don't care at this point. How many dozens or hundreds of women has this man imported into the country to be sold as slaves?
Well, I can tell you where that comes from. He's cherry-picking from the comics. I mean, that's what comic book screenwriters do nowadays, is they send out an intern, like, go buy me, like, the most iconic trade paperbacks of the comic book of the movie I'm working on. So, you know, it's clear that, like Nolan, he's read Dark Knight Returns, probably read Long Halloween, and the branding with the bat symbol comes from Nightfall, where Jean-Paul Valley takes over as Batman when Bruce Wayne gets his back broken, and he starts doing that exact same thing. And an incident where, like, the Asbat does that and brands someone with a bat shuriken on his chest is one of the things that prompts Bruce Wayne to come out of retirement and come and confront him. So in the comic book, Bruce Wayne is against barbarity like that. Yeah. But Snyder, his writers, read that issue and thought, oh, that's something cool and edgy we can have Batman do. You know, it's totally anathema to the character of the Bruce Wayne Batman.
And you know that Snyder has read the comics, because one, obviously the suit Batman's wearing comes from The Dark Knight Returns, and two, they actually have lines, exact quotes from The Dark Knight Returns in the movie, if you've read the comic. So, at least two that I remember. Yeah, that was, it didn't feel right for Batman to be branding people, first off. Two, the sex criminal thing was too dark. Again, it's too dark for a superhero movie. That's something that would come out of, let's say, The Punisher, maybe, who is off towards the anti-hero Mac Bolan side of things, less a superhero, more a vengeful killer, and it just was too dark. It always, and that's the choice he's made consistently through these two movies, is to go for something that's too serious for the material. If Superman and Zod had fought across the plains of Kansas, and it was just those two, they weren't trying to kill the planet, then killing Zod wouldn't have been a problem. I mean, you wouldn't have needed to kill Zod. Where he's trying to kill the whole planet, and he's actually killing Metropolis. That's not that's what you have to do in a war. It was too dark, too grim. So,
yeah,
I
will point out one thing I have seen that I know you have is I've been watching Daredevil season 2.
Yes.
And again, spoiler-free report here. They're the exact same concept that Snyder tried to do in Batman v Superman, of two heroes with two different methodologies, arguably going for the same goal, was handled far better in Daredevil season 2, especially the first 4 episodes. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think I saw Daredevil season 2. I thought Daredevil season 2, first off, did what it was doing excellently, and 2, they did set up that conflict between the Punisher and Daredevil and their differing methods, and it carried it off well, and it wasn't the focus of the entire season. So, all right,
Yeah.
we had gone over, but which is okay. I'm going to let you guys get last words in.
Hey, I did have one question. So there's the big discrepancy between what the critics are saying and what the fans are saying, on the aggregation sites like Rotten Tomatoes. Something like it's basically 25-75. 25% of critics like it, but 75% of viewers like it. Why do you think that is?
My honest answer is something in the movie ideologically offended the movie critics, because that's what always happens with movies like this. Something in it offended them.
I guarantee you it's the Christian references.
Well, and you didn't. There's lots of things that you didn't like about the movie, even though you said it was a brilliantly shot movie. So, what about it would appeal to someone who doesn't care what critics think?
There's a lot of great action. It's well made. It's well acted.
Cool. I might actually see it now.
Any last words, Brian?
Well, thanks to the folks in the comments. I have a craving for peach sweet tea, so I think I'm going to go drink some of that now.
Okay. Thanks for tuning in, folks. This is Batman versus Superman, Disaster of Cinema. Obviously, the headline there was a little bit hyperbolic. If you want to keep up with the DC Cinematic Universe, I would recommend going and seeing the movie at least once. Despite the flaws I have listed, it's not a bad movie. It's a great, well-made movie with some major flaws in the story and in themes that hold it back. So that's my opinion. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Geek Gab for April 2nd, 2016, and we three, your hosts, will be back.